This is the Yocal Idaho Midweek Report, where we give you a quick overview of the news in Idaho for the last week. This week we'll be talking about a bunch of stories related to planning in the Treasure Valley, from zoning and city council related things. Then we'll be talking about different bills and the legislature as they're desperately trying to wrap up before they finish. And then we'll close ourselves out with some fun stuff related to the USS Idaho and some news about Idaho's license plates. Starting out with our first one here, Sunroc appeals Nampa's denial for proposed concrete plant permit. This comes by KTVB7 by staff. Sunroc Corporation is challenging the City of Nampa's decision to deny a second conditional use permit, or a COP, for its proposed concrete plant. The appeal, submitted on the final day of the 15-day window, followed the city's revocation of Sunroc's initial COP grant in 2023, which was later revoked in February 2nd of 2024. The Utah-based construction company plans to build the plant south of Nampa's airport on a 7.83-acre light industrial zone, faced a setback after a 6-hour public hearing where the commission voted 5 in favor and 4 against the permit. The community's strong opposition, citing health risks, traffic concerns, and the potential property value impact, played a significant role in swaying the commission's decision. The appeal marks the latest development in Sunroc's ongoing efforts to establish the concrete plant, which, as you can tell, has been met with resistance from both the Nampa community and city officials. The Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation to deny the project now moves to the Nampa City Council, where a public hearing date has yet to be scheduled. Now, speaking of a construction-related project that is moving forward, Highway 16 project progresses full steam ahead. This comes by KTVB7 by Jude Binkley. The Idaho Transportation Department's ambitious project to extend State Highway 16 from State Street to I-84 is making significant strides towards completion. This massive infrastructure endeavor, designed to streamline the north-south travel in the Treasure Valley, is currently on its second phase, which promises to add approximately 4.5 miles of highway from Chinden to I-84, including a new interchange. ITD engineer Dan Gorley likened the future operation of State Highway 16 to that of the interstate, emphasizing the project's goal to alleviate congestion on other crucial areas such as Eagle Road and State Highway 55. With the first phase completed in 2024, the ongoing work is set to enhance the connectivity and reduce travel times for residents traveling between Emmett and the southern part of the Treasure Valley. As part of the construction efforts, a temporary closure of a section of I-84 happened on March 13th and 14th to facilitate the transportation of large beams crucial for the construction of the I-84 and State Highway 16 interchange. The closure was planned to be overnight to minimize disruptions. The extension of Highway 16 is poised to serve as a vital north-south route, offering a more efficient alternative for commuters and contributing to an overall development for the Treasure Valley. This project not only represents a significant investment in Idaho's infrastructure, but also a forward-looking approach to managing the Treasure Valley's growing transportation needs. And speaking of transportation concerns, Eagle City Council hesitates on Chick-Fil-A development amid traffic concerns. This comes by the Boise Dev by Margaret Carmel. The Eagle City Council is currently wrestling with a proposal that could bring a new Chick-Fil-A restaurant along with 15 acres of additional commercial space to the east end of the suburb. Despite the potential for economic growth and new dining options, council members are expressing significant concerns over the traffic implications of such a development. This proposed site, located at the corner of State Highway 44 and Edgewood Lane, is expected to house 17 businesses, including 4 drive-through restaurants. However, the prospect of increased traffic congestion, particularly from a high-volume drive-through like Chick-Fil-A, which we all know, has prompted a unanimous decision to table the project until April 9th. This delay will allow the developers to present a more detailed analysis of the traffic impact and explore possible modifications to the site plan that could alleviate the council's concern. The hesitation stems from a discussion about the balance between development and infrastructure. The council's concerns are not unfounded, as Ada County Highway District has updated its traffic study for the area, suggesting that the addition of a large drive-through would significantly alter traffic patterns. Despite these challenges, the project, dubbed East End Market, has been a decade in the making, with developers making several improvements to the road network in anticipation of the new commercial space. As the Eagle City Council approaches its April vote, the fate of the Chick-Fil-A and the larger development hangs in the balance. Speaking of things trying to keep up with developments, Middleton City Council to vote on School-Centric Development Ordinance. This comes by the Boise Dev by Autumn Robertsons. The Middleton City Council is considering a new ordinance that could change the relationship between residential developments and school capacity. Under current Idaho law, while local governments can levy impact fees on developers for infrastructure strain, this does not extend to schools, which typically rely on bonds and levies for expansion. The proposed ordinance in Middleton seeks to require developers to obtain a letter from local schools as part of their project application, certifying that the new development will not push the school over the 110% capacity. Without this letter, the application would be deemed incomplete, effectively linking the pace of residential growth to the ability of schools to accommodate new students. City Council member David Murray highlighted the urgency of the situation, noting that elementary schools in the district are already grappling with the pressure of rapid growth, with some operating well above their intended capacity. This measure is designed to prevent the overuse of portable classrooms as a stopgap solution, with exception for smaller projects, emphasizing that schools are a crucial part of the state's infrastructure and that children have a constitutional right to education. The vote, set for April 17th, could set a precedent for how cities across Idaho manage the intersection of development and education. Which, if you're enjoying the Midweek Report thus far and keeping updated about different things going on with city councils, do us a favor and hit the like button on YouTube, Rumble, or Twitter. It helps us reach more folks who love Idaho and want to know what's going on just like you. And speaking of things related to schools and moving into the legislature here, Idaho Senate Bill 1362, LGBTQ plus flag ban in Idaho schools. This comes by several sources. Idaho Senate Bill 1362 has sparked a contentious debate as it proposes to restrict the type of flags that can be displayed on public school property. The bill would list 9 specific flags that would be permitted, including the American flag, but explicitly bans the display of flags or banners that represent political or social movements, which would include the LGBTQ plus pride flags. The bill proposes, as stated by its proponents, to keep educational environments focused on learning and free from political messaging. The bill has elicited strong reactions from both sides of the debate. Supporters argue that the presence of such flags in schools can be divisive and distracts from the educational mission of public schools. On the other hand, opponents of the bill see it as a direct attack on the visibility and rights of LGBTQ individuals, arguing that it sends a message of exclusion and intolerance. Despite the bill's passage in the Senate, it faces significant opposition in the House Education Committee, where it was ultimately held. And kind of swinging back around with things to do with city councils, Idaho Senate advances bill to restrict city growth boundaries. Idaho Senate Bill 1403 is making its way to the Idaho Senate floor with the potential to alter the landscape of urban development. Sponsored by Senator Todd Lakely, a Republican from Nampa, the bill received unanimous support from the Senate State Affairs Committee and proposes a change to the process by which Idaho cities determine their area of impact. These areas, currently extending beyond the city limits, are where cities anticipate future growth and have a say in the development types. Lacey's bill would limit these areas to no more than 2 miles from the city boundaries and grant county commissioners the authority to set the limit based on specific criteria, with a mandatory review every 5 years. The bill has also introduced a review process to resolve the disagreement between the city and counties, aiming to avoid costly legal battles funded by the taxpayers. SB 1403 could potentially curtail cities' influence over growth in distant areas where they may not intend to provide services in the near future. For instance, Boise's area of impact, which currently extends into semi-rural edges, would be significantly reduced, as would Cuna's, which reaches well beyond its formal borders. While home builders and the Idaho Association of Counties have voiced support for this bill, citing its potential to encourage more concentrated urban growth and preserve farmland, urban planners have expressed reservations. The American Planning Association's Idaho chapter has opposed the bill, suggesting that cities' comprehensive planning should guide expansion rather than an arbitrary 2-mile boundary, which would inadvertently expand growth areas for small cities. As the bill heads to the Senate floor, it represents a critical juncture in Idaho's approach to managing urban sprawl. And speaking of an issue that happens in the urban areas, Idaho Legislature debates future of short-term rental regulation. This comes by the Boise Deb by Margaret Carmel. The Idaho House Business Committee recently found itself at the heart of a heated debate over the future of short-term rentals in the state, as it considered House Bill 506, proposed by Representative Jordan Redmond, a Republican from Coeur d'Alene. The bill aims to prevent cities from imposing regulation on short-term rentals, such as such as those listed on Airbnb or VRBO, that are not also applied to the long-term rental properties. That said, the bill has faced strong opposition from city officials and residents who argue that regulations on short-term rentals are crucial for ensuring visitors' safety and minimizing the impact on local communities. The testimonies highlighted concerns ranging from safety issues to the disruption caused by short-term rental guests in residential areas. McCall Mayor Bob Gills emphasized the importance of local ordinances in balancing the welfare of visitors with the quality of life for permanent residents. On the other side, short-term rental owners and property managers argued that current state statutes lack clarity, leading to overly restrictive and unfair regulations that infringe on property owners' rights. In response to the polarized views presented, the committee unanimously voted to send House Bill 506 to be amended with the hope that a compromise can be reached that addresses the concerns of both sides. Legislators, including Representative Brett Crane, a Republican from Nampa, and Representative Rod Furness, a Republican from Rigby, expressed a desire for more collaboration and negotiation, though the path to a satisfactory resolution remains uncertain. And related to things in housing and talking about one of the biggest cities in the state, Boise City Council's bold move to fund Red Lion homeless rooms. This comes by the Boise Deb by Margaret Carmel. The Boise City Council voted 5 for and 1 against to allocate $2.2 million of a Federal American Rescue Plan Act funds to extend the operation of the Red Lion Hotel as a temporary shelter for another year. Since 2020, this downtown hotel has served as an auxiliary shelter for the homeless families and medically fragile individuals. With that said, concerns were raised about the sustainability of this approach. The council members expressed a strong desire for a transition plan that would move residents from the temporary accommodations to more permanent and cost-effective housing solutions. The decision came after Ada County declined to continue funding, prompting the city to step in to ensure the hotel's doors remained open until spring of 2024, with hopes that permanent housing projects will materialize in the meantime. City officials, including Boise's Housing and Community Development Director Maureen Brewer, acknowledged the challenges of relying on fluctuating federal funds and escalating cost of temporary sheltering. However, there's optimism that several upcoming housing projects will provide long-term solutions. Among those are the 74-unit Park Apartments and a 100-unit expansion of the new Pathway Community Housing, both aimed at addressing homelessness. As the city navigates the complexities of transitioning from temporary to permanent housing, the broader community, including Interfaith Sanctuary, is rallying to raise funds for a new shelter that could alleviate the pressure on the Red Lion Hotel. Which, with any of those stories related to the legislature or what's going on with the Boise City Council, if you found them valuable, don't hesitate to share it. Your shares help us spread the word about our beautiful state and hopefully help people stay informed. And then diving back into the legislature, I know it's going to be a little bit heavier here. They're trying to wrap things up, and so it's a little bit of just a storm. Idaho House rejects amendment to block ranked choice voting. This comes by the East Idaho News by Clark Corbin of the Idaho Capital Sun. A proposed amendment to the Idaho Constitution aimed to block the implementation of ranked choice voting in the state failed to pass the Idaho House of Representatives. The amendment, introduced by Representative Vito Barbieri, a Republican from Dalton Gardens, sought to ensure that elections in Idaho would continue to be decided by a single round of voting where the candidates with the highest number of votes win. This move was a direct response to efforts by Idahoans for open primaries to introduce a ranked choice voting through an open primary ballot initiative. The debate on the House floor highlighted concerns about the complexity of ranked choice voting and a desire to maintain the current voting system. However, opposition to the amendment rose, notably from Representative Britt Raybould, a Republican from Rexburg, who pointed out potential complications the amendment could cause in nonpartisan judicial primary elections. Under current state law, if a candidate achieves a majority in the primary, the top two vote-getters advance to the general election. Raybould argued that the proposed amendment could inadvertently disrupt this process. Ultimately, the amendment failed to secure the 2/3 majority vote required to pass, with a final tally of 42 to 27 in favor, falling short of the 47 votes needed. This outcome means that the amendment will not be presented to voters in the upcoming November general election, leaving the door open for future discussions and potential changes to the Idaho voting system, including the possibility of ranked choice voting. And speaking of things related to voting, Idaho Senate votes to revive presidential primary elections. This comes by the Bonner County Daily Bee by Kyle Falenstino of the Idaho Capital Sun. The Idaho Senate has passed a bill to reinstate the presidential primary election, a move that has been widely anticipated by voters who found the caucus system confusing and frustrating. Senate Bill 1415, which passed with a vote of 31 in favor and 4 against, offers political parties the flexibility to either use the primary results to allocate delegates or hold their own caucus. This legislation, sponsored by Senate President pro tempore Chuck Winder, a Republican from Boise, aims to increase voter participation by allowing Idahoans to express their presidential preferences alongside other state primary elections. The push for a return to the presidential primary comes after the recent Idaho Republican caucus saw a turnout of just 6.8%, a stark contrast to the 32.5% turnout for the 2022 primary election. The caucus system's limitations, which exclude military members serving away from home, religious missionaries, workers, and those who are ill or lacking transportation, has been a significant concern for voters seeking a more straightforward electoral process. The bill's swift passage through the Senate reflects a desire to address these issues in time for the upcoming primary in May. As Senate Bill 1415 now moves to the Idaho House for consideration, it has the support of legislators like Senator Scott Herndon, a Republican from Sandpoint, who praised the bill's simplicity and the balancing of re-enfranchising voters while respecting party autonomy. However, some like Senator Brian Lenny, a Republican from Nampa, have expressed reservations about the bill's rapid progression and the extent of stakeholder consultation. The outcome of this legislation could significantly shape Idaho's approach to the presidential elections and the democratic participation of local residents. Speaking of things related to voting and our last story about the legislature, Idaho House votes to support Traditional Values Month. This comes by the Coeur d'Alene/Post Falls Press by Clark Corbin of the Idaho Capital Sun. The Idaho House of Representatives has passed House Concurrent Resolution 35, a non-binding resolution that champions the establishment of a new Traditional Values Month in Idaho. Sponsored by Representative Joe Alferreri, a Republican from Coeur d'Alene, the resolution proposes designating the period from Mother's Day to Father's Day as a time to celebrate various aspects of what Alferreri terms a traditional family, including roles such as sons, brothers, uncles, sisters, daughters, aunts, and specifically highlighting, quote, the natural female mother and male father, end quote. Despite the resolution's lack of legal force, it has caused debate among legislatures, reflecting disagreement over the definition and recognition of family structures. Opposition to the resolution was particularly strong among House Democrats, who criticized its language as being exclusionary towards non-traditional families and questioned the accuracy of the statistics cited in support of the resolution. The debate saw contributions from legislatures with experiences of non-traditional family setups, including substitute legislator Jennifer Beezer, who shared her journey as a single mother and the challenges faced by her family, while all Republicans backed the resolution, arguing for the right to celebrate traditional family structures. Democrats stood in opposition, advocating for a broader recognition of all family forms. As House Concurrent Resolution 35 now moves to the Idaho Senate for further consideration, it shows a societal debate about family values and what Idaho society considers a family. Which, if you want to keep up on things going on with the legislature and any of the other things we've talked about thus far, make sure to subscribe or follow us so you don't miss any of our future content. Now, finally getting out of things related to the Idaho legislature, they're just really busy. They're in the last week or two here. We have USS Idaho sets sail, celebrating Idaho's naval namesake. This comes by several sources. A momentous occasion for the U.S. Navy and the state of Idaho. The future USS Idaho, or SSN 799, a Virginian-class submarine, was formally christened on March 16th in Groton, Connecticut. This event marks the first time in over a century that a U.S. Navy vessel has been named in honor of the gem state. The christening ceremony, which took place at the General Dynamics Electric Boat Shipyard, is a time-honored naval tradition that normally involves breaking a bottle of champagne over the ship's hull to bring good fortune. But the christening of the USS Idaho featured a unique Idaho twist, where the submarine was christened with a bottle containing water from 4 of Idaho's notable lakes: Lake Penderile, Payette Lake, Henry's Lake, and Redfish Lake. The USS Idaho's entry into service is a testament to American craftsmanship and military readiness, and represents the technological advancements and strategical capabilities capabilities of the modern U.S. submarine fleet. For Idahoans, the christening of the USS Idaho is a source of immense pride and a reminder of the state's contribution to national defense. As the USS Idaho prepares to join the fleet, it stands as a powerful symbol of the state's enduring patriotism and commitment to protecting the United States. Speaking of mechanical things and cars, a wonderful pastime that is very American, Meridian Speedway joins National Registry of Historic Places. This comes by the Boise Dev by Autumn Robertsons. The Meridian Speedway, a staple of local culture and entertainment in the Treasure Valley, has earned a spot on the National Registry of Historical Places, celebrating its significant role in Meridian's agriculture and recreational history. Blaine Johnson, president of the Meridian Historical Preservation Commission, praised the Speedway for its nearly 75 years of contribution to the community, drawing spectators from across the valley and beyond. The National Register of Historical Places is a federal list that recognizes sites and properties of historical importance. While this designation is largely symbolic, it underscores the value of preserving such landmarks. The Idaho State Historical Society clarifies that the status does not impose restrictions on private property owners regarding alterations or demolition. Established in 1949, the 10.7-acre site at 335 South Main Street has long served dual purpose as both an agricultural exhibition ground and a racetrack. Today, it continues to host Meridian's Dairy Days each summer and draws thousands of racing enthusiasts to its nationally sanctioned events. The Speedway's rich history includes affiliation with the American Speed Association and NASCAR, making it one of the only 4 paved quarter-mile racetracks in Idaho and the only one with continuous operation. This recognition adds the Meridian Speedway to a list of historic Meridian sites, including 4 private residents and 3 commercial buildings, such as the Meridian Exchange Bank and the Clara Hill House. And speaking of beautiful things in the state and cars, Idaho's Wildlife License Plate Contest, calling all local artists. This comes by KTV B7 by staff. Idaho's creative community has an exciting opportunity to showcase their talent and love for wildlife as the Idaho Fish and Wildlife Foundation, or IFWF, launches its 2024 Idaho Wildlife License Plate Contest. Artists residing in Idaho are invited to submit their original artwork featuring a bluebird elk or cutthroat trout, with the winning prize set to adorn new wildlife license plates. The contest not only offers artists the chance to win a $1,000 prize, but also the unique platform to have their work seen on vehicles across the state. Each submission must fit the specific dimensions of 5.5 inches by 11.5 inches, ensuring it's perfectly tailored to Idaho's license plates. A panel of judges will narrow down the entries of the top 10 for each animal category, from which an IFWF judging committee will select the final winners. All proceeds from the wildlife license plates support the Idaho Fish and Game and other departments. Artists keen on participating have until May 24th of 2024 to submit their artwork, with IFWF providing all contest details and submission guidelines on their website. And with that said, thank you for listening to the entire report. I sincerely hope you found it enjoyable and valuable. If you like the Midweek Report, make sure to check out the full show where John and I talk about the main stories going on in Idaho and dive into them and break them down for you. Also, if we missed any important points or provided incorrect information, please feel free to reach out to us via email at localyocalidaho2022@gmail.com or on Twitter by tweeting me at localyocalidaho. With the small team we have, we're not able to cover everything, but we do our best to cover the most interesting and important stories. Thank you for your continued support and assistance. That's all for now, and I wish you a fantastic rest of your week. Godspeed.